What is up, fighting and fitness fans, and welcome to an all-new and special episode of the Fight Strength Podcast. I am Jason Burgos, contributor to SureDog and MMAsucker.com, and this week's episode is all about the release of a brand new ebook titled Weight Cut Systematic Strategies, which is out right now today. I am sure you are asking, well, Mr. Podcast host, who are the authors of this book? Well, I'm glad you asked. Author 1 is the other man on this weekly show, the strength and conditioning warlord of American Top Team, the traveling seminar machine plotting more destinations than Magellan. And that is, of course, the very bearded Philip Daru. Phil, what is going on?
Hey, do me a favor. How long does it take you to actually go through these introductions?
I mean, it's like a rapper who can just spit bars. I like 1 minute I can come up with this stuff. Less.
Oh, you over there freestyling. I see you. All right.
I'm from the Bronx. This is where rap started, baby.
Okay. I ain't mad at you, man.
Now, the other figure in this writing twosome is the de facto third host of this show, the 2-time guest, now 3-time, and 2-time co-host of FSP Overtime, the multi-master's degree and doctorate's badass strength coach of Longo and Weidman MMA, the one and only, Tony Ricci. Tony, what is going on?
Gentlemen, good to be here, and that's the best intro I'll ever get, I assure you. Thank you, Mr. Burgos.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Now, so before we get into further conversation on this book, I had the pleasure of editing and formatting. If you enjoy this episode, which I know you will, you can check out all of our previous episodes of the show with strength training stars like Joe DeFranco, Zach Evanesh, Dr. Corey Peacock, and Chris Algieri. Then find our pages on Spotify, iTunes, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and YouTube now. Okay, so let's jump right into talking about this ebook, which is available now on DaruStrong.com, and hopefully maybe it'll be available on other outlets soon as well. Now, Phil, give listeners a general summation of what the book is about and why it is so useful, and then Tony, you can chime in with any extra things Phil may have left out.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, me and Tony collaborated. Tony is the mastermind behind the whole thing. But to be honest with you, we're just bringing you real statistical strategies that we developed over time as strength coaches and what we've seen in the field. And I think that this is going to be something of that you pretty much need to have if you're a coach coming up, if you're working on weight cuts with weight class athletes or combat sport athletes, whatever the case may be. We're talking about real situational type atmosphere, cutting weight the way we should be doing it from a scientific approach with our experiences as coaches doing this, through, we've been doing this together primarily, what you would say 30 plus years, Tony, something
Absolutely.
like that.
Yep.
Yeah. So, at that point, you're going to be getting, breakdown from the start of camp all the way through until the rehydration, recutting process, or the rehydration, refueling process, and then even at the day of the fight. So you'll be getting, basically a breakdown, but it also is going to teach you how to physically do this yourself if you're a coach or an athlete. Tony, you want to go ahead and chime in?
Yeah, that's a really good summation, Phil. Thanks. And that's the goal. It's kind of it's a systematic strategy. In better words, the goal is to help someone facilitate their own method to weight cutting. And Phil said it, like what we do is we take you through from the very beginning. We have a full assessment. What do we need to know in advance before we even consider processing a weight cut? Then we take you to the data that should be acquired so you can properly predict if your fighter should make a weight class, can make a weight class. Subsequently, we go through how to manage a camp. Once the camp starts and you are responsible for the cut, everything that we need to be cognizant of. Because remember, what happens is we're not just managing a weight cut. We have to manage a weight cut within 5 or 6 other endeavors the fighter has to go through: skill training, media, work with their strength coaches if we're not doing that ourselves. On top of that, family issues. So what we've done in this book is we take you from the very beginning on all the variables that need to be considered in the weight cut. That's really what we're looking at. What do we need to know in advance? What should we know once the cut starts? How do we manage the cut? What are procedures that can help us do that? Once the cut is completed, we get to the rehy and refueling protocols. And as Phil said, we take you up to the fight. Like literally, we're going to estimate how many grams of carbohydrates post weigh-in your fighter may need. Now, all the numbers aren't perfect. They can't be. But they're a guideline in which someone can fill in their own numbers, how much water they think their fighter should intake. We make some suggestions, fluid replenishment after a workout, pre and post, how much carbs, how much protein, how to predict how much body fat they can lose from the time camp starts to the time they step on the scale. So we know if they can not only make the weight, but the key thing in strength and conditioning, and this is why Phil and I have done it, anyone can make the weight. But you don't want to make the weight after a 12-week camp and completely erase all the biomotor enhancement, the skill acquisition, and everything Phil and I work so hard on to help, advance in the fighter. And we've seen that. We have seen 10 to 12-week camps be destroyed in fight week or with a really bad rehy. So hopefully when you go through the book, I'm encouraged that I think people will ask the right questions, because the answers in weight cuts are a moving target, because each fighter is different. Each situation is different. But the questions remain the same. What do I need to know? How can I manage it? How do I monitor it? What do I do if it doesn't work? And I think that that'll be really helpful for particularly young coaches that want to enter the weight cut side. So Phil and I worked hard on it and to bring a good strategy. That's exactly what it is. But the key on it, make your own methods. And I think Yep.
Sorry, I think Phil's talking to somebody in the distance. But I mean, since we got to pause right now, I don't want you to give away too much, Tony. We're going to break it all down real shortly, all these different questions I have for you guys. I mean, the next one I wanted to ask is, how long have you, Tony, how long have you been having a book like this in mind, and what made you know, okay, yeah, Phil, this Daru is the guy I got to work on and partner on with this? Like, how long did it take? How long were you thinking about it, and why Phil?
I guess in essence, Jason, you always have a book in mind. As long as you're thinking, as long as you're strategizing, as long as you're not sleeping at night thinking of better ways to do things, which is how I live, well, there's a book available if you want to write it, right? So the book is in the brain because this is what you love, this is all you do, and this is what you eat and sleep, and you try each day to get better at it. And, I've tripped and fallen on my face with this as many times as anyone possibly can. So that's where the book is. The book is 10 years, 15 years of doing it, trying. Regarding why with Phil, because Phil is, if you look at some athletes, consummate professionals that do everything they're supposed to do to be better. You could look at years ago in football at Jerry Rice. Hey, look, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, don't think those guys skate. They eat right, they train right, they sleep right, they get massages, they do PT. You get people that are the consummate professional. On top of being talented, they do everything that needs to be done. And when I met Phil, I knew that immediately. He is the future of the strength and conditioning industry in fight performance. If you want to know where the industry can go and what its potential is, you follow Phil. I'm very proud of this young man. By my standards, he's a young man, but he does it all well. He's applied it. He's practiced it. He keeps learning. He's going to go do his, seminars internationally. But then as soon as he gets back, he's going to be in another certification seminar. So I suggest that if, those who have not following him or are not cognizant of his work, this is the man to emulate for those up and coming strength coaches. It's a lost quality. Let me take that back. I don't know if it was ever a quality for humans to do the overtime work, to do the fine details, to do it day and night, to do everything that has to be done, and then get good, but think you need to be better. So Phil is what I would say my first draft choice in strength and conditioning, right? I'm just a general manager, so everybody's fighting over who to draft in the NFL draft. What's that, in about a month?
Yeah.
I draft Phil Daru.
Phil, how good are you feeling right now?
Listen,
man, I've been around.
So the whole thing, and I don't want to make this as like, we're it's a love fest, but Tony is a guy that I look at as a mentor. Is somebody that I know who's been there and I could go to when I ask questions on a constant basis whenever I get the chance. He's a professional and he's a perfectionist. This guy literally took, how many days did we take to actually fully edit this book to make sure that it was perfect, to get out to the public and make sure that we're doing the right things by the entire industry. And he was he wasn't going to let it out until he was fully happy with all things in that book, no matter what it is. So that right there just shows me how well he is put together as a man. And for me, like I said, he's somebody that I look up to in the industry. So for him to say that, that's very humbling, and I'm very appreciative of that.
All right, no more love, no more love. Let's get back to the book here. Let's get back to the focus here. All right, now next question. You both have a lot of experience in this area of the game. Tony as a strength coach and nutrition specialist for many fighters over many years, and Phil as a strength coach of a lot of big time fighters going on near a decade now, and also having been a fighter who has had to cut weight himself. It is mentioned many times in the book how bad cutting can make or break a camp. Phil, can you take this one first? How important is it to make a weight cut during camp as smooth as possible? And if you can both bring up, when you get a chance to talk, any nightmarish or good experiences you have had in your careers with helping fighters make weight. But Phil, you take it first.
First and foremost, when you have a smooth weight cut process, when you have everything in line and everything's detailed out, and you have a scheduled approach or a systematic approach in that sense, it's a lot more easier to go into training and not have to feel like you have to starve yourself or just get through the training session when you're fully capable of doing the training session with the highest amount of performance, and that you'll fully recover with the fuel that you'll be able to get, and you're not worrying about having to cut your weight or lose weight or checking the scale every hour on the hour. It's a big psychological benefit if you know that you're going to be, right on point when it comes to the week of the fight, and that 7-day protocol, whenever the time comes, when you're ready to step on the scale for the actual weigh-ins, there's no real worry because you know that you put in the proper formations and the formulas needed throughout the entire camp. So from that aspect, it's easier for a fighter to actually just go through camp and worry about what they need to, which is their skills, tactical and technical training, and their physical preparation when it comes down to physical performance. Now, like I said, if you're worrying about your weight, if you're worrying about the weight cut, if you're like 20, 30 pounds overweight and you're not feeling in shape, that could play a big role in your psyche and how you get ready for a fight. If you're not properly prepared and you're not putting the fuel in your body, you're not going to perform at your highest, and that's just the way it goes. That's why we developed this book, so we can get fighters to have better performances and also keep them safe and healthy in the long run. No more metabolic damage, no more problems later on in life when they can't lose the weight. You see a lot of boxers that way. They blow up after they're done fighting because they did bad weight cuts back then, and even wrestlers too. I see overweight wrestlers now because they just did it wrong in a sense, and they messed up their entire hormonal, outcome from doing the wrong things, sustained all the way through their entire athletic career.
Yeah, Tony, your thoughts on how a bad weight cut can really ruin a camp and when it's done improperly?
Well, I think Phil and I unfortunately have seen it because how it can ruin it. Look, when the other athletes have the advantage, here's the bottom line, right? Other than oxygen, we breathe in oxygen, okay? Great. We can produce some energy out of that. We survive off of it. After that, every single thing you need comes from food. You can't rub potassium on a banana on your arm and get it in your body, right?
You can't. I've been trying so hard. Damn.
Get rid of wrinkles, okay? People are trying it, but you can't do it. So the point to that is nutrient density, human performance with sleep and nutrition, they really do precede the training itself. So that's how vital nutrition is. And you think about it. So Phil and I are trying to enhance a fighter's performance. The skill coach is trying to enhance a fighter's performance. simultaneously, while we're cutting the number one, well, maybe the number two thing they need, the number one thing is sleep, cutting the number two resource that's going to help them to advance it. So it has to be done very strategically. It has to be done right. You have to have a control of numbers on how much fat somebody can take off, how much water they hold, how much water they can pull, how much water they're turning over 5 weeks before the fight. Are they losing 6 pounds in a jiu-jitsu practice or a sparring practice? Phil and I we've always emphasized, we need to know that 6 or 7 weeks out. We don't want to do guessing the week of the weight cut. We need to know where we're going to land, what we can do, how much we can lose. If we don't know that, essentially, I have seen people go from Godzilla to the Little Mermaid. I hate picking on the Little Mermaid because I love the Little Mermaid. I've seen just about every play of the Little Mermaid. But King Kong, Godzilla, and I kid you not, on a Monday before a fight, and then with a horrible last week cut and rehydration protocol, all those biomotor abilities, all the strength Phil worked on, all the speed, you see him doing it with Dustin now, all the agility, all the cognitive enhancement, all the confidence goes to hell in 1 week. Yeah. And that's what we can't have. The week before the fight is designed to be, they already got enough stress. They got the fight, they got media, they've got their sponsors that want to be there. So literally I've seen two things. I've seen a really terrible weight cut, somewhat mitigated by a good rehy and rehydration protocol. And I've seen a good weight cut actually go down the tubes with a bad rehy and refueling protocol. So that's how delicate it is. It dictates, you can take the entire camp. It doesn't matter what you did. And you can turn it on its head in 1 week, or you can spend that week in hell trying to drop, trying to pull 20 pounds of water and still the last week pull off fat, which simultaneously means you're ripping off muscle tissue, which means all the power, the speed, the agility that you created is going out the window. It's that important. And no other athlete has to do this. A football player eats anything they want. A sprinter, anything they want. The baseball player, anything. Basketball, anything. Here we are trying to make a better athlete, like I said, while somewhat taking away the number two thing that makes them a better athlete. Sleep, nutrition, training. So it's that, it's that delicate. It's extremely volatile. And I've had the experience, we've all talked about it. I've watched someone lose a belt due to due to a poor rehy. Yeah. Go into a fight 12 to 13 pounds underweight. Yeah. You can't have it. And think about this, guys. I'll close on this. This is why it's such a nightmare. You're dealing with an entire future changed by a bad rehydration protocol or a bad weight cut. You lose the belt, you lose 4 or 5 title defenses. Those are what pay the most. Yeah. This is not like, oh, golly gee, I should have weighed more. This is a career. This is millions of dollars potentially in title defenses versus you becoming a challenger again and making a fraction of what you were. So we've seen it all. That's why we collaborated. We're not saying we know everything. We have this down perfect, but we think we've offered some really good ways to think about weight cutting so none of you go through this in the future.
I mean, I really enjoyed reading the book. I mean, because, while editing and doing formatting and working on it with you guys, because it's just as a MMA nerd, it's just a lot of fascinating things in the book. And one of my favorite parts of the book is on rehydration and refueling after the fighter has made weight. You guys give a very detailed outline on how to replenish your fighter after the cut. It was fascinating. It made me hungry because, the food choices and the what they drink and what they eat and that's the time after is good stuff. Surprisingly, a lot of people are gonna assume it's like rice cakes only and that kind of stuff. But the cut is key. But is replenishment just as big, if not more so? And Tony, you can take this one first.
I'll start just simply saying, yeah, of course, because here's what really matters, and we discussed this in the book. It's great. If Phil and I have a fighter that has to land at 185 on the scale, we got our job done. But we spent the entire camp trying to determine by watching, by monitoring, what is the right fight weight after they're 185. So so in better words, the rehy and refuel is about getting the fighter to where they perform their best in camp. And if you don't do that properly, then we may not get them there. If Phil and I do not have a good rehy and refueling protocol, and a fighter's supposed to fight a middleweight at 208, and they go in at 195, well, if they run into a moth on the way to the cage, they're going to get knocked out. Okay? They're out. If they weigh 215, great. They have a lot of power, but they have I don't think hippos have good endurance. They have the endurance of a hippo. Okay? So then we've lost that. So the point is, it is everything, not just because you're looking at fighter safety. We want that first. But the rehy and refuel is your best opportunity to take your peak of that fighter, the best fighter you saw in camp, and get him into that cage. It's that important.
Phil?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, you can hinder a performance by a bad rehy and bad refueling process. You can do all the things correct, and at the end of the day, yeah, you stepped on the scale and made the weight. You don't have to give up any money, but you still have to step in that cage and fight. You have to step in the cage and fight and be as optimal as possible, and perform at your highest. So for me, I like to have my guys and girls around where they were at around 6 weeks out. That's where I like to refuel them up into, because that's basically where they felt the best. So for me and for Tony, I know we both are on the same page with this, is that we want to get them physically ready, but also make sure that we're giving them the amount of nutrients they need after we depleted them prior to that week. But we try to make sure that we're not fully depleting them that week of the fight, because it is that much harder to put it back on within a 24-hour period.
Yep.
Now, I mean, we've talked about it on the show previously, and it's talked about in the book that there are differences in this process with working with male and female fighters. It isn't specifically focused on in the book, and there is a chance is there a chance down the line that an updated version of the book will be released with addendums for helping female athletes cut weight? Phil, you could take this first.
I do believe that is important. There's a lot of differences there. Females are a lot different, as we all know. We have to deal with them on a constant basis. I'm pretty sure we all love them, but it's
it matters on
tough.
the day if we love them.
Yeah, trust me. But yeah, I think that could be something that we look into, further on in the future. If everybody likes this book, which I know they will, and they'll take a lot from it, we can obviously go and do a lot more with it, even going down to even maybe youth athletes as well.
That's a great point. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the sky's the limit, and even skies aren't the limit, because we're stars. So you know how it rolls.
Hey, I like that.
Hey, got him. That was a good one. Put that on the shirt. Hashtag it.
Daru the poet.
I love it.
Yeah. I got all the fucking hashtags. We're ready to go. Anyways.
Yeah, keep it going.
But yeah, I think it'll be something down the line that we can make happen for sure.
Now, I mean, I also appreciate that the book suggests many tools and software that are very useful in this process. However, it's also mentioned that you don't have to have them right away, because they can be pricey. I mean, that's part of anything with science and medicine. It can be a little bit pricey. So, Tony, could you explain a few of the tools and software mentioned in the book, like body metrics, but also
Sure.
give the trainers on a budget out there reason to not fear if they don't have all the stuff to start off with,
Yeah, and that's a great point, Jason. Phil, look, there are a lot of people that say, Tony, you measure too much. What are you going to do with that? Hey, I have the information. I don't have to use it. Why not have it? It may be relevant in the future. That's all. And yeah, we use heart rate monitors, bipolar, which, by the way, are pretty affordable. And we use a system called Intellimetrics, Body Metrics. It's an ultrasound system, and it's been tested against BOD in other body fat modalities, I believe even DEXA, and shows relative accuracy. And the reason is, the most important thing, guys, is portability, because we're going to travel with the fighters. Okay, you're going to go gym to gym sometimes. Maybe they're sparring in a different gym, and you want to get over there and look at their water turnover and then measure their body fat. So here's the good news. I use a lot of the tools, and Phil and I use a lot of these things, but they're going to come down in price. So to young aspiring strength coaches, nutritionists, weight cut coaches, just be patient, because for one product that's being made, 78 other people are doing it now. So yes, like the body metrics was, hey, let me tell you this. I paid in 2003, shows you how much of an idiot I am, $2,300 for a flat screen Panasonic. Okay? I can now buy one, I think, at 7-Eleven. For about $300. All right? That's what's happening to all this equipment. Yeah. So in our book, we talk about machines that measure muscle glycogen. We talk about polar heart rate monitors. We talk about the ultrasound body fat system. The reason why we talked about it was just so in the future that young trainers and coaches will know and be cognizant of it. Because again, those prices are coming down. And there's going to be a day where this may sound like a lot, but for $2,000, you're going to have everything we mentioned in the book. Mm-hmm. And there's 9 or 10 tools in there. Yeah. So you don't have to have them, but just get those body fat calipers, maybe a refractometer that could measure specific gravity. Look up online some of the tools we mentioned, look at your budget, and get everything we can. In the book, we make we make allowances for those who don't have those tools and how to prognosticate and use the numbers without them. So again, I'm a tool geek and I like them. And the good news is, like I said, for somebody who's 23 years old, just getting out of college and wants to be in MMA fight sports, in about 2 years, those prices are down and you're going to be ready to roll with all those tools. Yeah.
Now, both of you are working with Dr. Corey Peacock and Chris Algieri, that I mentioned earlier, in your new endeavor, the Fight Science Institute. It's mentioned in the book. 2 questions here. First, will this book be required reading for anyone getting involved with the FSI and possibly going for certifications through the programs? And also, just tell the listeners a bit about this new endeavor you guys are involved in. Phil, you can take this one.
Yeah, so the Fight Science Institute is a collective, I guess a collective collaboration between the men behind getting fighters in shape, getting fighters ready to perform. We came together just because we're all friends, man. We enjoy each other. We know that there was something missing in the fight sports world. So basically what we're trying to do is we're having 2 divisions. We're going to have a strength and conditioning side and we'll have a nutrition side, which are going to basically help out all fighters and more so than coaches to actually have a true certification that shows and has systematic approaches that will help a fighter get ready for a fight. And I think that this is the first of its kind. I don't think that really other certifications dive deep into the specifics of how to physically formulate a program and to get a fighter ready for combat. So for that, I think that this is something that'll be good for the entire industry and the sport itself. As far as the book goes, that's on Tony. He's the head of the nutrition side, so I'll let him take that one. Tony?
Well, I think it's nice to read. We don't require it, obviously, but it gives you an idea how we think. Mm-hmm. And what we're going to do at FSI is exactly what Phil said. The good thing is that, I'll say it straight out, Phil, Chris, Corey, and I, we don't do anything else. We care about fighting. That's all we care about. We don't, yeah, sure. I know Phil works with some young football players and stuff like that. And he has the capacity to work well outside of just fight sports because of his strength and conditioning knowledge. But simultaneously, our heart and our time and our passion goes into fighting. So what we're doing is just aggregating all the information we can. Where just like we did in the book, we're trying to offer perspectives on how to think about fight sports. How to think about enhancing fight performance. What are the right questions to ask in fight performance? This will come as a shock to young strength coaches, but 10 to 15 years from now, we're going to look back on some of what we're doing now and going, that's the worst thing we could have done. Now, I know we don't believe that. Mm-hmm. I've seen people post on Instagram and swear up and down that what's that? The Dunning-Kruger study, the less you know, the more certain you are. Well, I've seen the certainty beyond doubt, and I have to tell you that alarms me. But my point to that is we're going to bring information together. We're going to bring thoughts together. We're going to share and exchange information. You will never get from us. We are the sole proprietor of performance enhancement. So we want to develop a certification, and the certification will be relevant only to enhancing fight performance and nothing else. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. We'll be doing fun things in the field. I'm going to be doing some testing in the field and sharing that, watching how we can get people to decrease the airtime, if you will. Boxers, making sure that when they pivot, they're not pivoting vertically. And we're going to monitor that. We're going to measure that. We're going to look at the speed at which somebody can do in a wrestling shot. Can they cover 2 meters in how much time? Fun stuff. Yeah. Plenty of people will say, hey, man, you don't need that stuff. You don't need to know how fast somebody can shoot. That's skill-based. Well, everything's skill-based, then I might as well not do strength and conditioning. Yeah. So we just want to add on and bring out some new ideas along with a good certification that young professionals can look at, be proud of, and say, you know what, I really walked away from that learning how to think about enhancing a fighter's performance. That's the goal. Think, not just answer. Think. Questions will always be the same. Answers will evolve. So therefore, that's really our goal in the whole FSI. We're really excited, and as an old man, I'm with three young guys who are good in the game. So I'm really looking forward. My goal is to get their information out there because these guys are killing it and they're sharp.
Now, at the end of the book, there are charts and checklists trainers can use. Maybe you can copy paste. You just take the ideas and use for yourself in implementing a lot of these strategies. Tony, can you talk about those charts and checklists that are at the end of the book?
Yeah, well, my weakness is Phil did the great systematic stuff. I'm a university professor, so everything winds up looking like a textbook. Okay, that's my weakness. So, there's a lot of text in it, and really what I took from a lot of what Phil was doing is you're going to read a lot of text. You're going to read how to do an assessment. You'll read that. You're going to read how to manage a camp. You're going to read how to acquire the data, what to do with the data. And then you're going to read about cut week, what to do during cut week. And then you'll read about rehy and refueling protocol. But really what I took from Phil is the checklist is at the back. So what you can do is all of the things we discuss are in checklist format. And then you can essentially just go back to the book and go, okay, why am I looking at age as such an important factor in my initial assessment? Well, and you check it off. Okay, this fighter is 31. They have a 15-year of history of cutting weight because they started when they were wrestling. Those are the things that we want to know because they're going to impact how your fighter cuts, if your fighter can cut, and what their historical perspective and practices are regarding weight cuts. So the checklists are wonderful because what they do is they take the whole system that I write about. Hopefully I don't bore you too much with it. I think it'll be good. And what we did is I took a lot of what Phil was doing and put it into a checklist so it's clearly elucidated in, okay, here's what I do number 1. Here's what I do number 2. Here's what I do number 3. And you don't have to use our checklist. What we did is provide the information that we feel is pertinent and relevant so that the individual can make their own list, really.
I mean, that's all the questions. I mean, any final thought? I mean, before we get to final thoughts, of course, people got a lot of information here, but let's give them the social media stuff as always. Phil, give them your social, your Instagram, not your Snapchat because you're not doing any of it anymore. The Twitter, the Facebook, all the places that people can find you. The website, along with the book, it is on darustrong.com now for $45. But let them know all your social stuff.
Yeah, so we also got the discount code for the book going for the next week till next Monday. So it's Fight Science is the discount code. You'll get 10% off if you go on there and do that right away. Also, as far as my Instagram goes, it's at Daru Strong. Twitter's at Daru Strong, DARU, and the strong. So also, you know what? I'm still on Snapchat a little bit. Okay. I'm on a little bit. Okay. I don't do a whole lot, but it's Daru Strong 1. And then my YouTube is Phil Daru. You could check out. I have a lot of exercise videos there, just standard exercise videos that you could go ahead and check out. And then obviously my the whole fight camp with Joanna and Dustin. So you can go ahead and check those out. And be on the lookout this weekend. Joanna Young Jacek fighting for her title back. And luckily we'll be hopefully. I don't have to worry about it, but I know we'll be getting that belt back and bringing it back to American Top Team. So that's it. That's all from me. Tony?
Yeah. And I'm cheering on that. And by the way, everybody, I do encourage you to go watch all of what Phil did in that camp with Joanna and his camp with Dustin, because there's some good stuff and a lot of effort, man. That's what I mean. A lot of effort and thought going into that. I guess I'm not that good at social media. That's why I'm hanging out with Phil and you, Jason. But I'm at _Ricci, Ricci. But I do encourage everybody to start checking in on Instagram at Fight Science Institute, at Fight Science Institute. That's where Phil, Corey, Chris Algieri, who's a WBO world champion in boxing and an ISKA world champion in kickboxing, we'll be putting data and aggregating that there. So please join us there. And there will be a website, FightScienceInstitute.com. That'll be up and coming. So please look for us there. And this is also where we'll be announcing, as well as at Daru Strong and my Instagram, though, a lot of the projects or any ongoing books or anything we put together. It's where you can watch Phil go through camp with Dustin, as well as his site and all the work he's did with Joanna. He's put some time in, and to her credit too, she's put the time in, right, Phil? I mean, it looks like she did a wonderful job this camp. So.
Yeah, man, she's a hard worker. Everybody knows that. So hopefully we'll get that. But listen, if you don't follow my man Tony Ricci, it's _Ricci. He has crazy amounts of exercises that you could do that are all sport specific. In what I see actually truly does work. And obviously I've stolen a few of his things. So you know they're good.
Stealing among friends, my man.
Well, I was borrowing it. But yeah, man, if you haven't, do so. And I'm looking forward to the next, the future of Fight Science Institute is going to be great.
Yeah, man, you guys got to look up. Tony's got a video that will drive the ladies wild. That's a very good one. You got to look that one up. You'll see it. You know what I'm talking about when you see it.
Not bad for soon to be 53.
Still bringing a thunder. But I mean, for me, you can find me on Instagram, Jericho Vendetta. On Twitter, Cheap Seats Chat. Remember, Fight Strength Podcast Facebook page. That's where this video and this episode of the show is airing live at the moment. You can always find us on Twitter, Fight Strength _. Remember, like I mentioned earlier in the show, all the previous episodes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, Player FM. You can find it on YouTube, SoundCloud. I'd like to say a big thank you to both of you guys for getting me involved with this. It was truly a pleasure. It was a learning tree, moment going through this book, getting to read it, getting to understand and see what you guys do, and it was truly an honor. Any last words for both of you before we end this episode of the show?
Go ahead, Tony. It's on you.
Oh, just if you take the opportunity to get the book, I want to thank you for it. And all I can tell you is that we put a lot of work into it. So first, I do care about what I do. I don't care about being good or let me say respected in the sense where people know who I am. All I care about is delivering something good. And we worked hard. And more importantly, I care about my teammates. So Phil is my teammate. So I put a lot of time into this book, and he put a lot of time in, so that we're bringing you something that we really, really think is worth it. And I hope it is. That's all. I hope that you can walk away and say, cool, man, I picked something up, forever be thinking about it, and it will forever influence me as a coach. That's really what we're looking for. I really want some quality to go out, because Mr. Daru, like I said, is my teammate, and I want his rep to continue to grow. So I'm hoping that you all do enjoy the book and you really find value in it. If you do, please let us know, and we'll work hard to continue these products.
Phil, final thoughts?
As a coach, I'm just going to talk to my young strength coaches out there. As a coach, you have to be obsessed with improvement. You have to be obsessed with growing as an individual and learning and seeking out information. I'm not saying that I have all the answers. Tony probably does, because he's a smart man. But what I will say is this: I make sure no matter what I'm doing, throughout this year, I'll be doing a lot of seminars. That is true. But throughout this year, I will be attending a lot of seminars as well. So I'm never going to stop learning. I'm never going to stop achieving, more, I guess, success in a way through learning and having the ability to put out content for the stuff that I learn. So if you're looking to improve, you're looking to get better, if you're looking to learn, man, please check this book out. It has a ton of information by a man who's very, very intelligent and has a lot of knowledge in this game, along with my 2 cents, that you guys already know if you follow the Fight Strength podcast. But, like I said, man, if you're looking to improve, check out the book. And then always, like I said, look to improve each and every day.
Yeah.
All right, I mean, that is it. Big thank you, as always, to Tony for coming on. He is Phil Daru. I am Jason Burgos. Fight Strength Podcast, episode 34. Go out there, weight cut, systematic strategies. It's worth it. That is it. Bye-bye. Tony, say bye-bye.
See y'all soon. Thank you.